Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a story that's pretty wild. It's about how an idea from the very beginning of AI, an idea that was lost for decades, is now making a comeback to solve billion-dollar problems in one of the most important industries on the planet.
It all kicks off with a question that honestly sounds like something out of a movie. What if the blueprint for the future of AI wasn't cooked up in some high-tech lab last week, but was actually written back in 1988, and then just sat on a shelf? Let's see how that's even possible.
So our story begins, not with some big dramatic event, but with a simple message between a couple of old colleagues.
And this right here, this is the message that started it all. Imagine this. Daniel Huang is looking back at his old master's thesis, and he has this incredible light bulb moment. He realizes the basic design he came up with all those years ago looks almost identical to the super advanced AI systems being built right now. To really get this, you have to look at the timeline. So back in 1988, Daniel creates this rule-based AI, a classic expert system. Now, hit the fast-forward button for 37 years. Think about that. The entire internet as we know it, the whole modern AI revolution, all of that happened in that gap. And now, that same core idea is being brought back as a cutting-edge agentic AI platform. So what in the world was an expert system? Well, you can think of it as AI's first big win. See, instead of learning from, a billion pictures of cats like AI does today, these systems had to be taught rule by rule. A knowledge engineer would literally sit down with an expert, say a veteran engineer, and painstakingly translate all their years of experience and gut feelings into a massive list of if-then rules that a computer could understand.
Okay, this is where the story gets really cool. How do you possibly connect a 37-year-old idea to today's technology? Well, let's connect the dots.
So you have to be wondering, right? How can an idea from the era of big hair and floppy disks possibly be relevant today? The secret isn't in the code itself. It's in the architecture, the actual blueprint. The building blocks are basically the same. They've just evolved into something way more powerful.
And this table just lays it out perfectly. The old supervisor was just a rigid rule follower. Today's orchestrator is more like a conductor. It can think, it can plan, it can improvise. Those old static specialists have become autonomous agents that can go out and use tools to find information on their own. And maybe the most important part, the old dusty libraries have become vector stores, which is like a real searchable memory for the AI. It's a huge leap from a simple machine to a whole network of agents that can think and work together.
Okay, let's pause on that term, vector store, because this is a really key piece of the modern puzzle. Just imagine you could walk into a library and instead of searching for a specific title, you could just ask, hey, show me everything you have about making ships more efficient. And boom, it would instantly pull up books on fuel economy, on new regulations, on voyage planning, even if those exact words aren't in the titles. It organizes everything by meaning, which gives the AI this incredibly powerful, almost human-like way to connect ideas.
So you have this powerful, reborn AI concept. Where do you prove it really works? You take it to an industry that's under a ton of pressure, where the stakes are unbelievably high: global maritime shipping.
And we're not talking about some small niche market. We are talking about a market expected to be worth over $50 billion in just a few years. The demand for smarter solutions here is just off the charts.
So why is this market exploding? Well, if you're a modern ship owner, you are facing a perfect storm of problems. Fuel costs can eat up 60% of a single voyage's budget. That's just insane. New environmental regulations are a total minefield of fines and delays. And maybe worst of all, the most experienced captains and engineers, the people with decades of irreplaceable knowledge in their heads, are retiring, and all that wisdom is just walking out the door.
Now, a market this huge has obviously attracted some heavy hitters. It's already crowded with sophisticated platforms from some of the biggest names in the industry. So, the big question is, in these very competitive waters, how does a brand new approach even begin to stand out?
The answer is brilliant, really. You don't just try to compete, you create a whole new category of AI. You move away from the black box that pretty much everyone else is using.
And this slide just shows the difference perfectly. Most AI today is a black box. It gives you an answer, but it literally can't tell you how it got there. If you're a ship captain making a multi-million-dollar decision, that's a huge problem. This glass box approach, though, it doesn't just give you the what, it gives you the why. It can say, I recommend changing course because of this specific regulation and the current fuel price in this port. Now that's a system you can actually trust.
So this glass box idea creates three massive advantages. First, explainability. It builds the trust you absolutely need for those big, expensive decisions. Second, it directly solves that brain drain problem by capturing an expert's wisdom and putting it right into the software. And finally, and this is the big picture view, this isn't just about shipping. This same framework is basically a blueprint for any complex, rule-heavy industry, like aerospace or energy.
So what does the journey look like? How do you take this powerful idea and turn it into a real-world product? Well, the strategy is smart because it's focused. You don't try to, boil the ocean. You start with one single pilot project, a Digital Fleet Advisor 2.0, and you prove its value by solving those very specific, very painful problems for ship owners first.
And there's a clear, logical roadmap to get there. First, you do the deep research to find that perfect entry point in the market. Then, you build a prototype, an MVP, just to prove the concept works. That proof becomes a white paper to get investors excited, and that funding pays for the final, critical step to scale in the maritime world, getting official class certification.
This quote really just says it all, doesn't it? It's not about replacing humans with some mysterious black box. It's about giving them a tool that offers transparent, trustworthy, and completely explainable advice.
And that leaves us with a final, really interesting question to think about. Maybe the true revolution in AI, especially in these critical industries, isn't about creating something artificial to replace us. Maybe it's about building systems that can capture, preserve, and scale the very best of our own human intelligence and wisdom for generations to come.